He was hired to empty trash, but what he carried home was proof. When the lights timed out, the building whispered names it wasn't supposed to say. A janitor, a keycard, and cameras nobody remembered to stop. If the truth is quiet, tonight it will still be heard. Stay with me until the very end, and don't forget to tap like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. The truth has been hiding in plain sight. Marcus Hale clocked in at 10:58 p.m., the lobby's marble echoing his cart's soft rattle. Cleaning after hours at the Vancouver satellite office of Mallory Kessler Logistics meant silence, motion sensors, and the comforting routine of recycling bins sorted like chess pieces. He nodded to Earl, the night guard with crossword ink on his fingertips. Tonight the elevators seemed to breathe. On floor 12, a conference room glowed past schedule. His cart paused, wheels hushed. He noticed the camera's tiny red eye still on, and made a mental note. The 12th floor glass displayed an agenda ghosted on a whiteboard, Q4 bid Port Fraser Intermodal. A black Pelican case rested under the table like a sleeping dog. Marcus wiped fingerprints from the glass, practiced invisibility, and listened to nothing. But behind the nothing, a printer coughed, and a door soft clicked. He checked his watch. Officially, only 2 people should be here after 11, Earl and him. The Pelican case's latches faced the door, as if expecting hands. The hallway camera kept its own patient vigil, blinking to itself. He finished the kitchenette, bleach carving citrus in the air. The building's access panels had a personality, some badges chirped, some sighed. Dana Ruiz, the facility manager, always tagged out at 9:07 p.m. like a clock tower. Tonight her code had no right to echo in the stairwell. But echo it did, 2 floors down, then up. Marcus leaned his mop against the wall and listened for footsteps. The stairwell answered with a hush that somehow felt arranged. On 10, lights auto-woke for someone bigger than air. A rolling shadow passed, broad, fast, and careful. Marcus didn't see a face, only a suit's sharp outline and the metallic whisper of aluminum brushing nylon. He smelled cologne, expensive, restrained. The Pelican case had a twin. He checked the clock, 11:19. He stood still, counted to 8, and resumed wiping a very clean countertop until his hands stopped shaking. The elevator chimed once, as if agreeing to keep secrets. Buildings remember. We pretend they don't because it's comforting. But the HVAC hum, the keycard chirps, the cameras, the janitor's routine, together they are a ledger. Tonight, the ledger began a new page. Marcus wheeled to the service corridor, reset his breathing, and took inventory, liners, spray, microfiber squares folded like habits. He texted his daughter goodnight, the message stuck undelivered. A good sign. He logged a maintenance ticket for a flickering ballast, documenting the world as it should be. Then, back to the 12th. The Pelican case under the table was gone, but its dust rectangle wasn't. At 11:42, Earl called, "You anywhere near 12?" His voice was a lowercase whisper. Marcus said yes, watching the smudge where the case had rested. "We got an alarm blip east stair, floor 11. Earl rarely blipped. Marcus peered down the corridor, a card reader light shifted green to amber like a thought reconsidered. He closed the conference door he hadn't opened. Down the hall, the red camera LED kept time like a stubborn heartbeat. By midnight, Marcus had polished the elevator chrome to a mirror. His reflection looked tired and trustworthy, the second part paid less. A muffled conversation seeped from logistics, one voice clipped, managerial, another anxious, genderless. Phrases like window and bid file and chain of custody floated through the vents. He thought of how truth travels in air before it's ever written down. The building exhaled and the motion lights woke, one by one. Dana's office door, the one with the plant that kept forgiving fluorescent light, showed a new scratch near the lock, small, fresh, like a hurried decision. Marcus ran his thumb over it, then stepped back to avoid becoming a character in his own suspicion. He logged the scratch in the app, tagged possible tamper, because that's what you do when you're invisible but responsible. The server room down the hall hummed like a choir that never breathed. He finished the restrooms, folded the triangle on a roll of paper towels, and considered coffee. On the way back, he saw the conference agenda had changed. Port Fraser bid was now scrawled over with moved. but marker residue told him the word had been copied and then wiped. Marcus touched the whiteboard with his knuckle. His hand came back dusted with ghost ink no one meant to leave. Questions open like doors. Who moved the case? Whose badge chirped wrong? Why the whiteboard correction? Evidence had taken its first breath. In stories like this, breath becomes voice if anyone listens long enough. Morning came in a rush of ties and tote bags. Marcus clocked out at 6:04 a.m., traded a nod with Olivia Tran from procurement early, focused, and reliable, and went home. By noon, his phone buzzed, "Need you 7 p.m., special clean, 12th floor at Dana." He returned to find Dana with a smile that strained. "Leave the conference carpets for last," she said, voice bright over an edge. He noticed she avoided looking at the ceiling camera dome. At 7:36 p.m., Earl handed Marcus a paper log. "System's spotty," Earl said. "Right arrivals tonight." A throwback. Marcus liked paper, it made lies take longer. He wrote Hale 1907, Ruiz 1911, Tran 1922, surprised to see Olivia appear this late, holding nothing but resolve. The building settled into its nighttime posture, an animal curling into watchfulness. The red LEDs dotted the ceiling like patient satellites. They called it the Pelican, but it was really a folder inside a case inside a narrative, bid schematics, port slotting, union unloading schedules. The kind of thing that decides who eats in winter. At 8:02, a man in a suit, Richard Mallory, glided across 12, unscheduled, the kind of presence that makes hallways scoot aside. Marcus, back by the mop sink, saw only reflection on chrome. Reflections tell the truth in fragments you have to assemble. At 8:30, Olivia stared at the whiteboard, phone to her ear, whispering, "I didn't move anything." Silence. "No, I'll stay." She hung up and straightened, a person preparing to be doubted. Marcus emptied a bin near her desk. She thanked him like he'd saved her from drowning. On his cart, the battery for camera 12B's test unit blinked. No one else noticed its unblinking friend above the door. The quiet had a weight now, measurable and growing. Dana arrived with Brent Kessler, head of security operations for the outsourced contractor. Brent brought two things, a tablet and impatience. "We'll scrub the motion triggers," he said to no one in particular. "Nothing leaves this floor." Marcus wiped slower, listening. Brent's tablet showed gray blocks, cameras frozen at 11:15 from the prior night, right when everything happened. "System glitch," Brent said. Marcus heard the word glitch and thought decision. There's a grammar to cover stories, passive voice, vague time, technical fog. Glitch is a comma that hopes you won't look past it. Marcus did what he always did, kept working, kept noticing. At 9:05 p.m., Marcus saw it, the conference room camera recorded two places. The main server, and on a maintenance label MRAUX13, the mobile rig used during renovations. He'd helped IT mount it 2 weeks ago, forgotten on a column above the ficus. It had its own SD card, charged and blinking. He rolled his cart beneath, stretching for a ceiling tile like dust was history. It was, tonight. Olivia sat with her hands flat on the table as Dana and Brent asked questions that sounded like statements. "You signed out the bid folder at 4:12 p.m., Brent said. Then you returned at 8:10. Olivia's jaw moved once, then steadied. At 4:12, yes. At 8:10, I came back because you texted me. Brent didn't blink. We'll verify. The SD card above the ficus kept blinking, disinterested, fair. Marcus cleaned a perfectly clean surface to keep from speaking. Earl called again, voice low. Motion ping on stairwell east, 12 to 10, timestamp 23:19 yesterday. Logs say Dana's badge. A pause. Dana says she was home. Earl didn't editorialize. Paper logs won't either. Marcus marked a small X in his pocket notebook he kept for grocery lists and inconvenient truths. The building's air handlers sighed, then listened again. Brent announced that footage from 12A and 12B was unavailable due to network instability. Dana looked relieved in a way that was nowhere safe to sit. Olivia said nothing and held the table edge. Marcus checked the AUX rig again. The SD card light blinked, right, and right. He felt like a librarian who'd found a missing chapter misshelved under plants. Truth doesn't vanish. It relocates. At 10:03 p.m., Richard Mallory's footsteps returned, unannounced. This time he carried nothing but certainty. He nodded at Brent. "We'll keep this internal," Richard said, not a question. Olivia's eyes didn't move, but Marcus saw her 10 years from now, still explaining tonight. Richard turned to leave and paused, assessing the room like a chessboard. Kings move any direction, pawns move one square and clean up later. The stakes sharpened, a port contract, reputations, one person who could be blamed without breaking senior glass. Marcus held a tool no one knew existed in this room, time-stamped, boring, incorruptible. He texted Priya Nair, the IT admin who once taught him to reset badge readers when they ate cards. "Still got that backup rig on 12? She replied a minute later, "Yep." "Why?" He typed, then erased. "Thought I saw it blink." She replied with a winking emoji and, blessedly, nothing else. He stared at the ceiling, the small light polite as a lighthouse. He knew lighthouses don't move, you move toward them. Dana asked Marcus to clear the room for a deep carpet refresh, code 4, give us privacy. He rolled his card out, counted 12 tiles to the right, and then backtracked to swap out a nearly full liner. In the mirror of the breakroom microwave, he saw Brent pull a USB from his tablet and pocket it. Olivia stared at the table like it might testify. The microwave clock blinking 12 o'clock, ignorant and exact. In the service closet, Marcus faced a choice, be what the room expected or be the room's memory. He removed a ceiling tile and eased out the AUX cam's SD card. He didn't look at it, he didn't need to. He slid it into the tiny Tyvek envelope he kept for spare fuses. His hands shook once, then remembered their work. Mops don't tremble when you hold them like a promise. He stepped outside onto the loading dock, air-cold and uncomplicated. He breathed in time with the sodium street lamp's soft buzz. People think decisions are thunderclaps. They're usually inventory notes, Tyvek Russell, a man deciding who he is when no one's grading him. He put the envelope deep in his pocket. Then he went back inside as if he'd forgotten nothing. Midnight again. Earl delivered a printout, keycard access log for the past 36 hours. Earl wasn't supposed to. Rules have subclasses called conscience. The log showed Dana's badge at 2319 in the east stairwell, then again, immediately at 2319, at the lobby turnstile. Two places at once. Cloned badge or clone story. Marcus underlined both entries lightly with his finger. Numbers speak when names get shy. 3 artifacts access logs, the case's dust shadow, the AUX camera had formed a triangle. Investigations live in triangles, they point. Someone would erase lines, triangles redraw themselves. Priya met Marcus on the mezzanine stair landing, where acoustics scatter. He handed her the Tyvek envelope without flourish. "If this is what I think, chain of custody," she said. Marcus nodded. "Label it HVAC calibration test," he suggested. Priya eyed him, then smiled like someone recognizing an ally she hadn't planned on. "Proof likes plain clothes. Tonight it wore Tyvek and dust." Priya plugged the card into an offline laptop in an IT cage, air humming at regulated cool. The video showed 2314, Richard entering 12 via service hall with Brent, 2316, Dana opening the conference room, 2318, Pelican case lifted, folder removed, 2320, Olivia nowhere. The camera angle was merciless and boring, the way truth should be. Priya exhaled. "Back up to 2 drives," Marcus said, surprising himself with his own certainty. The access log's double ping for Dana resolved under Priya's cursor. A second badge number had been provisioned briefly then deleted, name field blank. The admin log captured its creation timestamp, user Kessler. Priya looked at Marcus. "This is serious." He nodded. "Serious is better than wrong." She saved a PDF to a read-only share with a brand name, airhandler_specs_v3.pdf. Camouflage is the courtesy we pay to the truth under threat. Dana called Priya to 12. Network's weird, Dana said, eyes on Brent, who stood with arms folded and a practiced scowl. We'll need IT to verify timestamps. Priya's face became corporate neutral. We can, she said, but the system time is locked to GPS. Brent swallowed a retort. Marcus emptied another bin, invisible but listening. Invisibility is the best vantage point when everyone else needs to be seen. The music in Marcus's head went quiet, the bed tone of fear dropped a decibel. He thought about rent, child support, and the word retaliation he'd seen in HR posters. He thought about Olivia's thanks and Earl's crossword hands. He placed each thought on a shelf, labeled reachable. Then he went back to work, which had become something else. At 1:15 a.m., Richard decided to end the theater. We're suspending Miss Tran pending investigation, he said, legal in tone, final in posture. Olivia didn't flinch. On what evidence, she asked. Brent held up his tablet showing frozen footage. Network instability, he repeated. Priya cleared her throat lightly. There's auxiliary redundancy on 12 during renovations, she said. We'll include that. Richard's eyes did a quick, involuntary subtraction. Dana's scratch at her office lock became explained by pry marks found on the interior latch. Amateur, rushed. Marcus reported it, and Dana snapped, we'll handle. He apologized for noticing out loud. She softened. Marcus, I know you're thorough, she said, which is how managers compliment while hoping you'll be less so. The plant in her office leaned toward the fluorescent light, pretending it was the sun. Priya synced the AUX footage to GPS time and printed a still, Richard lifting the folder while Brent held the door, Dana watching the hallway. She attached the access log PDF showing Brent's creation of the Phantom badge and slid both into an envelope labeled Facilities HVAC. She handed it to Earl. Union protocol, she whispered. He nodded once. The Union Hall likes its evidence like coffee, black, no sugar. Olivia walked to the elevator, badge deactivated mid-step. She stopped, small in the acres of glass. Marcus caught up. You didn't do this, he said, breaking his contract with invisibility. She met his eyes, a tired soldier receiving the only decent ration. I know, she said. But knowing isn't the same as proving. He glanced up at the camera, then at the ficus, then at her. Morning saw HR scheduling informational interviews. Translation, pick a narrative before truth picks you. Priya requested a meeting with facilities maintenance and security in the small conference room, the one without portraits of founders. She arrived with a cart, 2 laptops, an HDMI cable, and a thermos. She poured coffee, then the truth. The room got very awake, very fast. When evidence finally speaks, it doesn't raise its voice. It shows up in the right order and keeps breathing while everyone else forgets how. That's when the story turns, not loudly, inevitably. No music for this one. Priya played the video. The room listened. Richard stared at his own posture on screen, then at Brent, then at Dana. No explanations fit the footage's geometry. Earl watched with the joyless relief of someone who hates being right about people. Marcus stood by the door, mop like a staff. Silence can convict without a single noun. Richard tried a last trench, this is taken out of context. Priya rewound, playing it again with access log overlays like subtitles. At 23:18, the Phantom badge pinged. At 23:20, the Pelicans folder exited. At 23:22, the conference whiteboard changed to moved. The system time blinked in different precision. Brent's face made the shape of resignation. Dana exhaled a confessions prelude, I shouldn't have. HR paused the meeting to call legal. Legal called the board. The board called the morning. Administrative leave got said with surprising efficiency. Richard stared at the table as if hoping for a hatch. Brent asked for a moment, he didn't get it. Dana looked at Marcus, then away, as if he'd seen her without a face on. He had. Olivia returned to pick up a boxed plant, because symbolism loves its job. Priya met her at the elevator with a different box, her badge reactivated, a letter rescinding suspension, and apology signed Mallory Kessler. Olivia read it once, then twice, mouth set not to shake. "Thank you," she told Priya. Then she turned to Marcus. "You too." He shrugged. "I just do floors," he said, knowing he didn't. Earl hung the union bulletin, "Know Your Rights, Retaliation." Below it, a smaller sheet, "Thank you to facility staff for cooperation in the recent review." No names. Good. Marcus finished the third-floor carpet, ordinary work feeling like a ceremony. Priya texted, "Backup copies stored with external counsel." He texted back a thumbs up, then wrote his grocery list. That night, the building finally sounded like itself again. Closure isn't fireworks. It's paperwork that can't be rewritten and people going back to work without bracing. Justice is a maintenance schedule met on time. News didn't break, it settled. An internal memo cited policy violations and access management failures. Richard submitted a resignation to pursue opportunities. Brent's firm lost the contract. Dana kept her job but moved to a role with less key access and more training modules. Marcus kept his schedule and a raised eyebrow he saved for meetings. Power doesn't apologize, it reassigns. In the cafeteria, Olivia sat with a real lunch for once. She invited Marcus to join. They ate in ordinary silence made sacred by what didn't happen to her career. Earl passed, lifted his coffee, and didn't wink. Respect sometimes looks like less. Marcus tasted salt and decided it wasn't sadness. Weeks later, Priya asked Marcus to help test the new camera policy, dual record, read-only cloud, sign access trails. He read the policy twice, thinking about how rules are learned after the exam. "You were right," Priya said. He shook his head. "The building was." She grinned. "Then you're the translator." He liked that word more than janitor, even if he still loved the broom. Dana approached him privately. "I'm sorry," she said, words carrying their own weight. "I thought if we handled it internally, we'd protect the company." Marcus nodded. "Protecting truth protects the company," he said, surprising them both. She nodded back, a student repeating a lesson she intended to keep. Plants grow straighter when the light stops lying. Olivia sent a short email, "Thank you for staying late." Attached was a gift card he didn't open for 2 days because gratitude can feel like heat. He finally bought his daughter a winter coat that let her run unbothered. On the receipt, the timestamp matched an after-school laugh. Some evidence belongs in frames. Sometimes the moral isn't a verdict. It's a small everyday good made possible because someone refused the convenient version. That kind of good endures longer than headlines. In HR's training video, a sanitized scenario resembled what had happened, minus names and with brighter lighting. They titled it, "The Importance of Redundancy and Chain of Custody." Marcus watched, bemused, and then returned to his cart. He liked real floors better than scripted ones. Still, he smiled when the camera angle matched the ficus's truth-telling perch. A new guard started nights, Tessa, eyes kind, shoes practical. Marcus showed her where the badge readers hiccup and which elevators stick on 9. He taught her the paper log, just in case. "Old school?" she asked. "Truth school," he said. They laughed the way people do after the siren fades. One evening, Marcus found a small, forgotten Pelican case in the storeroom, empty, innocent now. He placed it on the shelf and labeled it accurately, "Empty case, keep." Memory isn't just what you save, it's what you name so it can't pretend otherwise later. He closed the door and listened to the building breathe. A year-end email from the CEO praised a culture of accountability. Corporate language aside, the night staff got a modest raise. Earl framed the memo, not because he believed in executives but because he believed in proof. Marcus clocked in at 10:58, like always, and waved at the camera not because it watched but because it witnessed. Some watchers are worth waving at. Snow fell slowly over the loading dock, each flake choosing a place to rest. Inside, the red camera LED glowed steady, a tiny lighthouse no one would ever thank. Marcus pushed his cart down the quiet corridor, floors shining, night finally honest. Lesson: when power arranges the silence, let the record speak. Keep redundancies. Write things down. Be the person who stays late, not for praise, but so the truth has company. This story is inspired by true events. Names and details have been changed to protect privacy. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, subscribe to this channel and never miss the next case where truth prevails.